I'd heard about this rust product from a company called Dirty Down, and I'd wanted to try it, but it was shipped out of the UK and it was $25 a bottle. So I gave kind of a pass on that. Well, I found a source here in the US. It's still $18 a bottle, but I thought, well, let me try this out. Now, you can see the results of some of my experiments. I just put this on and stippled it with some water, and I'm going to show you how I did this. And then I did some other experiments on the back here, and I wanted to show you how I applied it so that you can kind of get an idea of the application, and then just give you some quick thoughts on it. But the way they tell you to do it is just slop it on there. You just put it on, and they say it works better over texture or where there's details. Flat areas it's not ideal for, and in practice I see that. But you see, I'm just putting this on very heavily, not worried about it. And I'll just thin it out a little up here so we can have some different things to look at. Now, the manufacturer says this stuff dries really fast, and it does. I don't know if you can see, but it's already starting to dry. In fact, they tell you, use it straight from the bottle, put the lid right back on. So you can kind of see how that looks. Now, I've watched some videos on it, read the manufacturer's instructions, and what I found is when you apply it just like this, I didn't find that it gave good performance. These experiments I did last night, and you can see this was a heavy application that was later stippled with water. This was a lighter application that was stippled with water, and then some additional water was applied later. It is water soluble, even though it's made of some pretty heavy chemicals. This area here was one that I did just a few minutes ago. I was actually filming another iteration of this blog, but it just went way too long. So I put that on there and then stippled it with water, and it's been less than 10 minutes, and you see how that's drying right there. And then you can see over here how this is drying. Now, if I go in and for comparison, let me just get a little bit of water on my brush and just stipple in just this area right up here. The process of adding water to it, and I'll do a little bit right here, the process of adding water to it seems to be what brings out the multiple tones of whatever it is that makes this work. It contains ethanol, acetone, xylene, and methyl ethyl ketones. So it's got, even though it's water soluble, it's not like Vallejo paint where you can pretty much eat that stuff. This is some powerful stuff. And you can see here where I put that water, it's starting to dry and it's starting to give multiple tones. So it does what the manufacturer says it does. You put it on, as you've seen, I hit it with a little bit of water to stipple it around, thin it out, leave some areas thick, and it produces rust effects, and it does it fairly effectively. You can see again here on the back, that's some serious rust tones. Now, the question is, of course, and I'm just going to hold this here while I talk so you can see it dry and see the effect it takes, because this effect actually didn't come fully into its own, I guess you would say, until about 45 minutes after I let it start drying. So it will continue changing over time. Looks like within an hour it's done. Whatever changes are going to happen are going to happen. Now the question is this worth $18 or $25 per bottle? Now, I got a rust set from Life Color that came with 2 other dust colors, but there were 4 rust colors in it, and I think that was $32. That's been my favorite rust set. So, I'm willing to spend money for good rust colors, good matte rust colors, and this does dry very matte. But what do I think of this, I guess, is the question. I like the rust tone it produces. This would be very useful in a lot of applications. You see on this dozer blade, how that makes it look rusted. The biggest drawback I see, and this makes me think of everything else in terms of usefulness is it doesn't ever dry. So I can go back in and pretty much clean this off with a wet brush. And these Life Color paints, when they dry, they've had 12, 15 hours to cure. You're not getting them off, not without some heavy duty thinner. So this stuff would definitely have to have some kind of clear varnish over it to seal it in, which that's only a minor thing, but I generally don't seal at this point. So it's something that I think about. The other thing that I think is a plus and a minus at the same time is it's good in that it's very random. I just stippled this with water. I just splattered some on there. I actually used the speckling technique to speckle water on there, and then I let some get in the corners, and you see the result that gives. That's some beautiful rust. But that's also a drawback. It's so incredibly random that it's hard to dial that in for scale. This would look good on Machining Krieger at 1/20th scale. I don't think it would look really good at, if you're building a piece of, say, if you're building a gunpla at 1/100th scale. It's just not scale appropriate if that's something that you're looking for. I think it would be good to put later coats over, like if you covered it in varnish and then put some chipping fluid on it and then painted over it and then chipped away, that would look pretty good. But you've still got some areas of just really big orange rust there. Now I can go in with my brush and tweak it a little bit like that, because again, it doesn't dry. So it's never set in stone, so you can kind of play with it and get some cool effects. But it works. It looks good. But I would say if your budget is limited, then I think it would be better to have a good selection of orange and yellow paints that you use for rust, and because then you could use them for other things also, and not sink $18 into a single product that, while it will do what it says and it works really well, it's kind of a single-use thing. It's useful. It's definitely useful, and if you've got the budget tolerance to get a bottle, then certainly get a bottle, because you see the results and you see how I can dial it in and play with it. But again, it's got some caveats to its use that are going to introduce extra steps and things like that, which, if that turns you off, having to hit it with a varnish to cover it up so that it doesn't go anywhere, that's something to think about. I'll use this. I've got it and I'll use it. But I'm only going to use this for really heavily rusted things, because I feel like I can use my paints to get rust effects done just as well. Let me flip it back around here and we can see how, you can see how that's drying. And you see what I mean about you really need to develop it with some water, and that seems to bring out the multiple tones. But anyway, it does what it says. Good product, a few caveats, kind of expensive, but as with all things, you make your own choice. But I like it. I'm giving it a 3/4 thumbs up.